Hello, everyone. Hi, Peter.
Greetings, Uncle.
How are you doing? Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you very well, Uncle.
All right. So shall we start with Itipiso as we have been doing?
Yes, Uncle, you are the very important person here, so this is your session.
Thank you. Okay. I have Venerable Merceri, Russell, Richard, and Michelle in the Bhikkhu Vihara joining us. So for those of you who know the three refuges, Itipiso chant, we'll chant that 3 rounds. Use it as a way of calming the mind and reflecting. And remember that when we recollect the Buddha, it's an act of devotion. And devotion is, I'm seeing it more and more as mudita and katanyukatavedi, both gratitude and joy. So the idea of that is you bring forth the qualities of the Buddha, compassion and wisdom, when you chant these recitations. And sometimes the Buddha is a very distant figure for us. So then I would think of the qualities of Luang Por Cha or the qualities of Ajahn Sumedho, and then the dedication of the puja is like reflecting, they are amazing beings. They are just wonderful beings. And then that wonder and gratitude opens your heart in a sense of joy. That's the idea behind it. So let's chant that together 3 times. Itipiso bhagava araham samma sambuddho vichacharana sampano sugato lokavidu anuttaro purisa dhamma sarati satta deva manusanam buddho bhagavati sawakato bhagavata dhammo santitiko akaliko ehipasiko Opanaiko pachatang vedita po vinyuhiti supatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho ujjupatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho nyaya patipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho Chipatipanno bhagavato sāvaka sangho yadidang chatari purisa yugani yata purisa pukkala hesa bhagavato sāvaka sangho ahaneyo apahaneyo Dakineyo Anjali Karaniyo Anuttara Punya Ketang Lokasati Tipiso Bhagavara Samma Sambuddho Vichacharana Sampano Sugato Lokavido Anuttaro Purisa Dhamma Sarati Satta Deva Manusanam Buddho Bhagavati Sawakato Bhagavata Dhammo Sandetiko Akaliko Siko aho panai kwa pacha tang vedita venyo iti supati panwa bhagavato asavaka sangho ujupati panwa bhagavato asavaka sangho yapati panwa bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sami Chipati Panno Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Yadidang Chatari Purisa Yugani Atta Purisa Pukala Hesa Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Ahaneyo Apahaneyo Dakineyo Anjali Karaniyo Anuttara Punya Ketang Lokasati Tipiso Bhagava Arahang Sampasampuddho Vichacharana Sampano Sugato Lokavidu Anuttaro Purisa Dhamma Sarati Tadeva Manusanam Buddha Bhagavati Sawakato Bhagavata Dhammo Samtetiko Akaliko Ehipasiko Opanaiko Pachatam Vedita Vinyo Hiti Supati Panno Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Ujupati Panno Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Nyayapati Panno Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sami Chipati Panno Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Yadidan Chatari Purisa Yugani Atta Purisa Pugala Hesa Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Ahaneyo Pahaneyo Dakineyo Anjali Karaniyo Anuttara Punya Ketang Lokasati. Very good. Let's do some meditation. We'll meditate for half an hour, and I'll give a bit of instruction to get us going, and then I'll be silent. So now let me set my clock. Right here. So close your eyes, sit comfortably, and bring awareness to the way things are. The room you're in, what it feels like to be where you are, the sounds, the temperature. As you know, I like to start with simple bit of focus by taking sound as the object of attention. So listen to sound. Now, what we want to emphasize is the quality of attention rather than the quality of the object. The object is sound, and the quality of attention is receptive awareness. So let the sounds come to you. So you're not going out to the sound or analyzing the sound, or the sound is just as it is. And there's this pure awareness of just knowing. And when you do that, I think very quickly you'll notice the silence of knowing. There's not a judgment about the sound, just sound as it is. And that's the quality of attention we're cultivating. So this isn't something you get later on, like halfway through the meditation. It's rather something you notice moment by moment. And then change the sense base. Use your body, use your hands. Feel the hands. Let those feelings become conscious. And it's the same silent knowing, awareness. And then the perception, which brings a sense of conscious space into the practice. Listen to sound. And perceive sound as in awareness. All the perceptions of sound, that the sound is up there and you are here. That whole structure is in awareness. And then the body, bodily sensations in awareness. So we usually say, I'm here, my body's here, the sound's out there, but now we're playing around with perception, seeing both bodily sensations and sound are changing objects in awareness. So there's a flow of sense experience, sound to body to smell, and there's the awareness of that. And we're emphasizing the awareness rather than the sense object or the quality of experience. Notice awareness has no quality, and yet there is knowing. So awareness knows hot, it knows cold, it knows pain, it knows pleasure. So be the awareness. And then within that reflection on the spaciousness of awareness, there's also the reflection that it accepts all things and rejects nothing. It's very open. And this we call loving kindness. So we can stimulate that part of our being by doing practices. So let's do that for a while. Bring attention to your chest. Make conscious the feeling of the breath rising and falling at the chest. Don't concentrate, but just be very spacious, open, knowing. Welcome the in-breath. Let go with the out-breath. Pay a lot of attention to the end of the out-breath. Now introduce the name or vision of a person who, when you remember them, it's very easy to feel heart connection to them. Some feeling of love or gratitude. So as I always say, for me, if I say Luang Por Viradhammo on the in-breath, so the name triggers the feeling in the heart. Luang Por, and then may you be well on the out-breath. Very simple. So this isn't thinking about Luang Por Viradhammo. It's using his image to remind me of something that's always available. It's the open heart. In breath, Luang Por, out breath, may you be well. Choose your person and do a few cycles of this. So the breath calms and the image opens the heart. Change the name of the person, refresh that feeling of open-heartedness, gratitude, kindness, love. So you could do several people and go through a cycle of people. But what we're coming to is this attitude that awareness is both accepts all things and knows all things as they come and go. So Luang Por Viradhammo's phrase, it's like this, and it all belongs. And this is the Citta, or awareness. So it has this quality of open, receptive, allowing. It rejects nothing, it holds on to nothing. So once you've gone through the names of some people, you can let go of the thinking, the visualizing, and just be with a sense of welcoming all things, letting go of all things. This is in awareness. So I'll be quiet now and we'll just sit with her for the rest of the time in quietness.
Good evening, Luang Por.
Shuxing, how are you doing?
Yes, I'm good. Hope we are
Okay.
too.
Yeah, happy.
We'll now request for Dhamma talk.
Please, yeah.
Pamaja loka dipati sahampati katanjaliya Diwarangaya chata Santi dasatha Parajaka jatika Desetu dhamma Anukampi mampaja
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. So hello everyone. Nice to be with you again. Hope you're well. Vita, our internet had a lot of problems yesterday. So I was teaching a group in Switzerland and I had to go on to just audio. So we're thinking of hooking up with Elon Musk, who's doing Starlink and everything else. And it's in beta trials right now. But what we hear that it's a good deal, so we might just get on the waiting list and see if we can make ourselves more.
Is this for real, Luang Por?
This is the modern monk. But check this out. Here, you'll be very impressed. I had a ride in a Tesla today. It was, it's like I'm a little boy when it gets to gadgets. I don't know. This is a man's thing, isn't it? Right? So riding in this fabulous car, and our friend, he took us out boating today. This monk life is okay, I tell you. And he went around a corner and he said, "Watch this." Two cars were coming to us and it was a bend in the road. He took his hands off the wheel and the car just followed the track of the road and I'm still alive. So that was fun, huh? So this is the modern monk thinking about Starlink and riding in Elon Musk's car. And the gentleman that took us out onto the water, he's on our building committee for the Dharma hall. Lovely man. And so every summer he takes us out for a picnic and on an island and out in the water. It's so beautiful. In Ontario, we have thousands of lakes. We have thousands of lakes, really, because it's glaciated, and the culture of Canadians is if they can afford it, or they have an ancestry of summer homes on these lakes. And then this is the height of the season. It's 30 plus degrees and people are happy out in the water. It's very, very lovely. So I'm feeling pretty lucky guy. But I don't want a Tesla. And I'm happy in the monastery. And I have a canoe, so I don't need a motorboat. So there you go. Well done. But I was obviously thinking about well-being because I was being very well. And the ways of well-being that all of us are we're not just interested in well-being, we're dedicated to well-being in some way. We seek well-being. And the Buddhist teaching is very much about that, isn't it? We seek well-being. If you think about the ways of well-being, obviously the environment we live in, the climate, the water, trees, the air, all of that is terribly important. And we're obviously all concerned about the excess heat and the flooding and droughts. So that's one area of concern and care and very important for well-being. And then, of course, our social relationships, our society, the type of governance, rule of law, non-corruption, fairness and representation. On the larger scale, and the smaller scale, our businesses, and then our families. So there's a well-being of society, social structures. We're all involved in that, whatever way we are. And then our inner world, our emotions and our habits and the things that confuse us and the things that edify us and inspire us. So the whole movement of the inner world. And these are not mutually exclusive. Obviously, a person who is emotionally happy needs to consume less. They don't need distractions. They're fulfilled from within rather than from without. So a person who has inner fulfillment consumes less, and that's better for the planet. And the person who has inner fulfillment is much more available for service, for compassionate work in whatever way they can. So these are obviously not mutually exclusive. But if a person is not able to breathe the air outside because of smoke, that's going to be their primary concern. They won't be able to help anyone because they're just trying to survive. They don't have enough food if they're in a war. So we as human beings have a kind of responsibility to ourselves and everyone else to care for all these things, but we can only do so much. But the dimension that we call it the fourth dimension in this listing. You could have many lists of well-being, I'm sure, but I would, like to consider what is in your language universe. What words do you use for the dimension, say, spirituality or religion? So if you're from a theistic background, you might have words like God, Brahma. If you're in like a Dvaita Vedanta tradition, you put words like the sense, the self with a big S and self with a small s, which sometimes confuses Buddhists, but has relevance if you're in that system of thinking. But just for you, for yourself, what is the difference between spirituality and emotional wellness? Like, is your sense of that dimension? Shall we call it spirituality for want of a better word? You'll have your word. But what is that dimension? Like, is it just a psychological dimension? Or is it more than that? Again, you don't have to answer. You don't have to put up your hand. But I think it is an important question because the Buddhist teaching isn't just psychological and it isn't just social, although those are terribly important, not to dismiss them, they're terribly important. So the way in Buddhism we talk about the spiritual, or you have the words like transcendence. I don't know if that's meaningful for you. Our Buddhist words tend to be, if they're on a kind of personal level, it's enlightenment or nirodha or freedom from suffering. If it's on a kind of philosophical level or statement level or unconditioned, uncreated nibbana. So we have this language in Theravada Buddhism. But what is that dimension? What is that dimension for you? Is it like culturally what happens when I meet folks from Asia? They'll quite often say to me, "Oh, well, I can never get enlightened. I have to work hard for many, many lifetimes. And then if I'm really, really good, then maybe I'll be reborn as a monk, and then and so on and so forth." But that's just cultural conditioning. That's someone just told you that, right? Someone, if I went to Perth, to the bookstore, is there a bookstore in Perth? I've never been, but if I went to a bookstore in Perth and I said, do you think you'll get reborn thousands of times and then get enlightened? No, they will, what are you talking about? Just buy a book. So sometimes we can have like very, very strong opinions about things and really, really believe in them, but not see that actually that's just what Granny told me, or the monks told me, so even better. Well, then I really believe it. But then the words enlightenment or that spiritual dimension becomes something which is far, far away, not possible. And I don't think that, to me, that's not true, because one of the really important words for me in the consideration of transcendence or spirituality or whatever you want to call it in your language universe, is the word akaliko, timeless, not a matter of time. Now, if you've been culturally conditioned to believe that you are such and such a person, and that you've done bad karma and that you will do good karma, now that's not wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong, but that's not the spiritual dimension. That's the worldly dimension. So we certainly have vipaka karma, resultant karma, but what is the spiritual dimension? It is say like we debate about rebirth. I don't know about you, but I have no rebirth memories. In fact, I have very few memories of anything as I get older, but that's another problem. But the whole idea of rebirth is a construct which I take from texts and teachers. So I have a kind of a hypothesis, a working hypothesis that, yeah, that might be true. But I don't really know that. But the thing about rebirth, to me, it's not spiritual, because it's about time. So whether I was reborn or not as a person, and whether I will be reborn in the future, still to me is not akaliko. It's not the timeless. So certainly we have in the texts talk about rebirth, and it's certainly important not to dismiss it, but it's still about a future and a self and a me and all of that. Whereas the entry into the spiritual is a whole different kind of language and dimension. So as you've often, those of you who hang out in these meetings, you've often heard me say, this language of uncreated. And this is synonymous with nibbana. Again, I don't like the words to use the word nibbana, because it's been so overused and it has so much other baggage around it that I'm not quite sure how people perceive that. So again, like more difficult language, uncreated. That's not an easy word to take into consciousness, because everything seems to be created, right? And so if your cultural perception is that you have to just beaver away, oh, that's a Canadian image. If you have to just work very, very hard, Canadians will understand the image. Beavers are very hardworking. That's the national animal of Canada, very hardworking. So you have to just work, and then in some future time, you'll get this thing called enlightenment. The problem with that is, first of all, time. And the uncreated, unoriginated, akaliko, not a matter of time. What does that mean? Like all of you who are card-carrying Theravada Buddhists probably chant that, right? Santitiko, Kaliko, Ehiparsiko, Opanaiko, Pachatang Vedita Bovinyohi, right? You hear that all the time. So, contemplate it deeply. The Dhamma is akaliko. Well, what does that mean? Akaliko, time, not a matter of time. Kala is time. Kali is birth and death. So what's not a matter of time? And this is the way I think you want to use these very basic reflections, which we do all the time, and not just take on the cultural beliefs which have been given you. Not that they're wrong, but they're grounded in all kinds of opinions and views. So you take the language of the chanting and all that, and really ponder it quite deeply. And that's not a negation of your possibility. We're intelligent, and we can think. So you take a word like akaliko or uncreated. Now, if you take a word like that and you bring that out, first of all, you calm your mind. So if your mind is really, really scattered, then you just have to do something to compose the mind. So you meditate. Well, why do you meditate? Why do you meditate? Do you meditate just so you can survive tomorrow? Yes, it's true. You'll be a better person tomorrow. It's true. And you can purify some of the tensions coming. That's true. But is meditation simply a New Age technique to relieve tension? Is that the only thing the Buddha was teaching us? Is it just stress release? It is, but is that all it is? Is that all the Buddha was teaching? Was he just a kind of uber psychologist who gave us these really neat tools? I don't think so. I think there's more to him, isn't there? I think we all agree with that. So then you have to bring your mind to that other kind of language. And that other kind of language is the language of the khandhas, the ayatanas, that this mind-body experience, that the world arises and ceases in this mind-body experience, this kind of language. Whereas the language of rebirth and cultural languages, I am a person, I was born, I will die. Not to say that the body won't be born and wasn't born and won't die. Not to say that that's not true, but is there a dimension there that gets missed when you identify with that sense of I am someone, I am a man, I am a woman, I am Viradhammo, I am a monk, I am, and I am going off into the future, and I'll get reborn with Maitreya Buddha or whatever. Oh, that's nice. I like that. That's a nice story. But that's just a story, culturally given to me. It's a nice story. I like it, But what's not a story, say? What's not a narrative? What's not a story? Well, the present moment. When you really attend to the present moment, there's no story here. It just is as it is. You need a story. I'm not saying you dismiss a story, but are there moments of attention that you can bring to your life which are no longer involved in the story of self? Because if you're involved in the story of self, then that's a personality view, or ego, or me, you, becoming, and all the rest of it. And that's thought, the language of self, when it's caught up in that way. Now we can, is there any usefulness in letting go of that language? And yes, there is, because the realization of what this dimension of spirituality is always now. Now. And curiously enough, the only thing you can know is now. So the past and the future you can know as thought. I can know a resentment of someone that's betrayed me and as a present moment experience. I can know my anxiety about a future job interview as a present moment experience. And that's what we're trying to do when we talk about anicca, dukkha, anatta, the five khandhas, the ayatanas, all this different language we have about the phenomenology of our experience, the phenomenology of the human consciousness. And we're just trying to look at phenomenon, emotions, thoughts, bodily feelings, memories, all the constructs of compounded thinking and analysis. These are all constructs that come and go, come and go, come and go, come and go. And that's the emphasis on anicca. So the sense of you being a person who might get reborn is a thought that comes and goes, right? And so that's created. If someone compliments you and said, you are the best Buddhist I've ever met in the world, right? And you think, yeah, they're right. I like that person. I could hang out with you, yeah. And then he said, yeah, you Buddhists are a bunch of fools. You don't know what you're talking about. You can't say that to me. Go away. Now, those are experiences. They're created, or they're created into the mind through contact, feeling, perception, all the whole 9 yards of experience. So that's created. And what is created is a sense of a self, no? I insult you, and a sense of self comes up of resentment, and I'm going to get back at you in revenge, whatever. That's a gross example. You hear about your kids being sick, your grandkids being sick. Oh no, you're sick. What are we going to do? We have to phone them, which is okay. You get reborn as a worrying mom or as a worrying grandmother or whatever, right? That comes up. So it's created. Not to dismiss it, but it is created. It's in time. So the spiritual dimension is not a matter of time. It's not created. So what happens when you do that? What happens when you give yourself some space to not be in the narratives of your life, running from one thing to another, and you just stop and observe, well, what's uncreated? And then what does that require? Well, that does require some calmness of mind. If your mind hasn't been trained to settle into the present moment, you don't have the subtlety to wait, to notice. So hence, we emphasize meditation. But the meditation is simply a vehicle for entering into profound stillness in the present moment, to know the present moment. And that is something that is not that far away from us, because each of us can do that. Now, sometimes meditation gets portrayed as this huge kind of absorption and concentration, which you have to just build up and build up and build up. And we feel very pathetic because none of us can do it, right? And someone can apparently do this stuff. And then we try, we follow all the instructions and we spend hours and hours and hours, and we feel totally pathetic. I don't know about you, but I've certainly felt pathetic lots of times. But what's the problem there? Oftentimes the problem isn't your intelligence, isn't your virtue, isn't your determination. It's the sense of trying to get something in the future. And as long as you're trying to get something in the future, you're not with the present moment. So the language we use around that is bhava tanha. Bhava tanha, the sense of becoming something. And when we talk about, we have this high language of the unconditioned, uncreated, or nibbana, or satapati, or anagami, sakadagami, arahant, and all that kind of attainment language, it's very, very difficult not to try to get that, not to try to attain it, not to try to create it, not to try to get rid of something in order to get that. And that's all tanha, that's craving. So that's why we begin to observe craving as a changing phenomena. And when we observe craving as a changing phenomena, we enter into the stillness of the mind, because that's what keeps the mind moving. And one of the sad things about meditators is we can be so conditioned to these ideas of attainment and becoming and trying to get something, or we've had some really profound experience in our meditation, and we try to recreate that through desire, through memory. It does not work. So if you start to use a different kind of language, and you use Luang Por Sumedho's language, so it's like this, or the language I like to use is make sound, let sound come into consciousness. What are you doing? You're creating an attitude of attention which is present. It's not about getting something. It's not about getting rid of something. And this is where we come to this word citta. I think Venerable Amarasiri was saying it might be nice to reflect on that word because it was in one of the question lines. And you know, when you see the word citta now, you see it translated as heart/mind, sometimes heart, sometimes mind. It's very confusing, isn't it? And so Venerable Amarasiri was saying that in the Sanskrit and in the Pali, it has a can I say a loving quality? Would that be correct? Yeah. You know, the word citta has both a loving quality and a present knowing quality. Quality is hard, you know, it's a hard word too. But that it's not just functional presence, as I say, but it has this capacity of accepting all things and rejecting none. Now, wouldn't you call that love? Not, I wouldn't call that romantic love. I wouldn't call it, I love a Tesla. I'd love a Tesla. Where'd love to ice cream comes. That's not love, that's tanha. That's not what we mean by love in the Brahma Viharas. But what would that quality be? That when I awaken to the way things are, I can understand that. Yeah, it's like this. And then this sense of open acceptance. And it all belongs. Neither pushing away nor holding on. Now, to me, it seems that is the attitude which is about the present moment. It's not an attitude which is about getting something later on, because that wouldn't be open-hearted attention to the way things are. So when we emphasize some objective experience, meditative experience or attainment experience, we're not paying attention to the citta. We're paying attention to the preconceived notions of what we should be getting or what we should be getting rid of. And even if we're not considered about the kind of ultimate goals or ultimate language, how can we process the very real fears and aversions and suffering we have as human beings if we never accept it in the way it is? Because if I don't accept something, I can never understand it. You know, if I don't accept, like, I had a broken vacuum, Richard fixed, I couldn't fix it. And, you know, first of all, I said, well, it is broken, but I didn't accept it for a while because I was hoping it wouldn't be that way. So I just kept using it, but I think that's not going to work. So then now this isn't working. Okay, that's present moment awareness. So if I never come to that in my meditation, if I'm just trying to get rid of my fears, or I'm judging myself, I shouldn't be so angry, I should be a kinder person, I should be a good Buddhist, I should be metta all the time. That's not awareness. That's a preconceived notion of self, of what I should and shouldn't be. Attavada or Sakaya Ditti. So now when we drop the narrative of self, and we just say, it's like this, that's a profound thing. And that's the beginning, and perhaps end, that's the beginning of spirituality. It's that profound stopping of the narrative of self, becoming and getting rid of, and all the language and judgments we have about ourselves and others, and the self-disparagement and guilt and the excitement, all of that movement, we begin to say, oh, that's just movement, that's an object. So the way I like to enter into that space of presence is, I like to use that language that this is in awareness. So my experience of liking and disliking is something that's in awareness. So then awareness is not dependent on liking and disliking. Tanha is something that chooses and wants, but awareness, when you understand the citta in this way, then accepts liking and disliking. It's not even a judgment that I should just be neutral. You know, some kind of neutral zombie who I don't like water, I don't like Teslas, and my mind never moves anywhere. I mean, who's like that? No one's like that. So, but accepting that as a human being, yeah, there are likes and dislikes, and there is fun and there is depression, but that's just the way it is. But where's the spiritual dimension? The spiritual dimension isn't an experience per se, that it is the knowing itself that is the spiritual dimension. That's very subtle. It's very, very subtle. So as we contemplate like akaliko, what is Dhamma? Buddha, awakened, not a matter of time. As we use that language, uncreated, hopefully we say it's always taking us back to the pure knowing of the way things are and open-hearted acceptance of the way things are. Now, morally, no. Morally, it's unacceptable to kill. And so we have these other dimensions. We have the dimension of ecology. We have the dimension of social cohesion and social responsibility. We have the dimension of familial responsibility. We have the dimension of emotional, both purification and uplift through the Brahma Viharas. We have all those dimensions. But where do we understand them? We understand them from the place of awareness. So when we say it's like this and it all belongs, that's the starting place for everything else. The starting place for understanding our emotions, the starting place for our healthy human interactions or learning about our unhealthy human interactions. It's the starting place for dealing with the tent caterpillars and the gypsy moth caterpillars that all tried to destroy our oak trees and so many other things. The starting place is the spiritual. And that spiritual dimension of open-hearted acceptance and love, the more profoundly we go to that, and I would say go to this place in your heart, rather than always being up in your head, the more profoundly we go to that, the more fulfilled we are. And the more fulfilled we are, the less the negative emotions obsess us because we have a place of happiness. We have a place of well-being. And then we can interact in society, serve ecology from a way of inner fulfillment. If we don't have that inner fulfillment, what happens is, of course, we blame, we seek distractions, we destroy the planet and all the rest of it. So it's not selfish, this kind of reflection. My first teacher put it this way. He said, it's the selfishness that puts an end to selfishness. It's an interesting way to put it. And then the spiritual is no longer separate from the ecological. It's not like different dimensions. They're all really one beautiful participation. But if we never come to that, right, and we're always just trying to sort it all out with desire, we don't have we're looking in the wrong place, really. So Luang Por Sumedho's trust and awareness is very profound. You know, well, where is my faith? Where is my faith? My faith is in Sila, right? I have faith in morality. I have faith in my community, the good people. I have faith that we have the intelligence to deal with we've had a lot of problems with caterpillars in our trees. I have faith in that kind of activity. But spiritually, where could my faith really lie? What if my friends die and the caterpillars take all the trees out? Where is my refuge? And I would say it's in what we mean by the Citta, this open-hearted connection to the way things are. Not a separation. It's not the same as, say, like dissociation. It's not that. And then I'm kind of dissociated from life. It's like connected, but now connected from a place of open confidence and open-hearted knowing. And what it takes to get there, not to get there, I'd say, what does it take to say, what it takes is remembering rather than becoming. And Sati has that idea of remembering. Remembering what? Remembering it's like this. That's not a becoming. It's not like in the future. When I remember that I feel happy or sad, and I know it feels like this, that's not a becoming. It's a kaliko. It's timeless. Remembering the way things are. And the more you do that, you say, oh yeah, that's it. That's all I need to do. I just need to awaken to the way things are. Then intuition functions, my capacity to communicate gets better, and so on and so forth. So Just a few ideas. I'll close there.
Thank you, Luang Por. Let's all say 3 sadhus together. Andamayam o vadagatha sadhu karang kadamase. Sadhu, 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 anumodami.
Thank you very much, Luang Por.
Hi, Peter.
Hello, Luang Por. It's great teachings today.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So brothers and sisters, today's Q&A session will be done through type chat. So if you have any questions, please type them directly and send them to the host Q&A, and I'll help you read them out. Okay, there is first question, Luang Por. This person is asking about the guided sitting meditation earlier. This is with regards to setting the intentions to send goodwill and metta.
Right.
And to bring up people to the mind. Okay.
Right.
The question is, how can I continue to practice in the right way to lessen this feeling that I have if I bring out a person that I do not have a strong communicative relationship with? That, for example, an aversion, right? And how can I do it in a proper way to lessen that feeling, that sense of sending or dedicating metta to a person that I do not like?
Right. Okay. So that's a good example of 2 levels of thinking about this. One of the level is the personal. So there's me and whoever, Joe Blogs or whoever that I dislike. And when I bring him up to mind, then I remember how he might have hurt me. So that memory kind of wants to dominate my attention because it's strong and he's not a nice person. And so it's a kind of conflict that my emotional response through my historical interaction with him is negative. And then I'm asked to do metta for this character. So that's if you do metta at a personal level, me and the other person. But if you do Metta Bhavana at the level of phenomena, so if you look at this experience as a phenomenological movement, there's the phenomena of memory, right? And there's the emotional and narrative component of the memory. So the memory has feeling in it, and it has a storyline, and that storyline has a sense of me and the other. Now, that whole package is something in awareness. And that's what we mean by non-attachment. Non-attachment is a perspective, not a feeling. So non-attachment is a perspective of witnessing this whole construct between me and this other fellow through history as an object, as Vedana, as Sanya, as Sankhara, and all the different language you use. And let us just say they are phenomena, bodily phenomenon, emotional phenomenon, mental phenomenon, and they arise. So the person undertakes to do a Metta Bhavana practice, and I say, introduce the name of someone who, when you think of them, triggers a feeling of kindness or loving kindness or gratitude in the heart. And then what I'm asking there is, don't go to the narrative about the person, but simply stay with the feeling of the heart. Right? And then do it for another one and stimulate what loving kindness feels like or what gratitude feels like. Stimulate that. So then the person says, okay, good, got that. And then the idea is, okay, now bring up someone who the first memory is not nice. it's fearful, it's resentful, maybe you got verbally abused or whatever range of bad experiences you had. So then the feeling comes up. And if you're working in a phenomenological way rather than the personal way, then what you see is that Metta Bhavana is accepting the phenomenon of hatred. You get that? On the personal level, you get conflict. What should I do? I don't like this person, but I should have loving kindness to them. But that won't work because it's up in the head as self-view. What I'm suggesting is you let go of the narrative. It's there. It's there. I'm not dismissing it, but for a moment, you let go of the narrative and you just feel this feeling that whoever this person is triggers in you. And then you accept it. And that's Metta Bhavana for the phenomena of hatred. So it's not the same as like loving this person, because you can't do that. You're human. You know, if you dislike someone, you dislike them. And then if you try to suppress that and say, yeah, but I really, no, it doesn't work that way. But if you go to the idea that the Citta is this open awareness and accepts all things and rejects none, okay, then when the phenomena of aversion arises, okay, it's a challenge, but it feels this way. And then if you like go to the heart, you feel it's contracted, what does it feel like? And your mind will want to go to the story, or maybe to some sense of I should feel something, but you feel what you feel. So then you come back to see that the profundity of Metta Bhavana is in this non-personal way, or non-dual way, or phenomenological way. It's not about just me and you, because me and you is just a construct. But the feeling of annoyance or aversion. So then, as you work with that, you see, well, actually, there's a lot of resentment there. You know, I resent that person 6 years ago, or maybe you've had a divorce and the memory comes up of your partner, or maybe you had some altercation with an auntie, or maybe your kids forgot to send you a birthday card, or maybe some old business partner ripped you off, and resentments come up. What are you going to do that? You're going to love everyone? Maybe. But then what happens is you just feel guilty. I should love everyone. But now we're taking it out of the personal, out of Sakkaya Ditthi, into the phenomenological. That's why we say five khandhas, sankharas, all this language that we use. So what is the phenomena of hatred, aversion, annoyance? And it all belongs. It arises, it's created, and it ceases. It dies. And what is uncreated is the sense of open-hearted knowing. Now, if you stay with that, have patience with it, then the memory phenomenon, their volume, their amplitude, their strength, their kind of driving nature becomes less because you're not attaching to it. You're allowing it. It comes and goes. And what begins to dominate is you begin to sense, yeah, that loving heart or that open heart or just awareness is actually much better. And it works. It works. So you might not have a loving feeling as you perceive it. And here I think the word love maybe doesn't work, but it doesn't have the connotation of emotional warmth. It has more the connotation of open-hearted acceptance. So I can open-heartedly accept a feeling of anxiety. That's uncomfortable. I don't want it. But when my mind accepts it, then that's what I mean by the Citta. Huh? And that's why we always work in these two ways in Buddhism. We have the personal, but when we have the phenomenological. So we have these two languages. So in the phenomenological, we say anicca dukkha anatta. Now, I don't say that about the social. I don't say to my brothers at breakfast, you're nothing. You are anatta. You know, it doesn't make sense. Anatta. There was, what's it? Who was that guy that, what did he? He called himself it, right? Yeah, he would say, it is having breakfast about himself. It will now brush its teeth. And it just gets, it gets a little, it's humorous, but it's absurd. So if you get those two levels of Buddhism mixed up, it becomes really, really silly. But if you don't understand this other level, why we use this language of anicca, dukkha, anatta, of dependent origination, of the five khandhas, of the Four Noble Truths, it's all about the phenomenology of suffering and the end of suffering. And so we're trying to take out the personal narrative in that context, but in the context of social relationships, if I see Venerable Amarsi at breakfast, I don't say, is it happy this morning? I say, Venerable Amarsi, how are you doing? Nice to see you. Right? So, and we're playing this dance all the time. We're working on these two levels all the time. So if I see Venerable Amarsi and I'm in a grumpy mood, I know grumpiness feels this way. And I try not to speak through a grumpy mood. I try to speak in a kind way, in a pleasant way, even though if I might feel grumpy, right? I'm always aware of the citta or the constituents of mind that are going on within the social activity. We do both. We do both all the time. So the question is very good, actually, a very relevant question, because quite often I think we misconstrue Metta Bhavana to be like prayer. And that I am wishing all beings well, sending it out. That might work, but that's not Metta Bhavana. That's Metta prayer. Metta Bhavana is the enhancing of the capacity to be open-hearted to all things and let go of all things. Now, if it's practiced through the heart here, in the center of the heart, in the center of the chest, it has a very warm resonance, which brings a lot of joy and a lot of confidence. And so that's much encouraged to actually bring attention away from the analytical thinking, left brain kind of stuff down into the heart and to feel the citta and to know the citta. That's a very healthy kind of thing to do. But even if that's not, you don't feel that or it doesn't work, the attitude is one that's always possible. The attitude of it's like this and it all belongs. So it's a very important question because I think we get this wrong. And I think where we get it wrong also, we think that metta is like, I like everyone. And I don't. I don't like everyone. But it doesn't mean that I hate them. It's just like I am not simpatico with someone. It doesn't mean I hate them. I can still wish them well, right? But people ask me, well, does that mean that you love Hitler? No. That'd be crazy, wouldn't it? No. It's that when Hitler-type images arise in your mind, you don't let them obsess you with aversion and anger and that. You let them go. So if you see someone who has been really nasty towards you and your family, you protect yourself. You put up, boundaries. You warn other people rather than say, oh, may you be well. May you do that to me again. You don't do that, right? And that would be silly and smarmy. But you don't let your mind become obsessed with aversion towards that person, because that would be your prison. You would not be free. So when you accept, like if someone's hurt me, then the natural biological response is to have a memory to say, this guy's dangerous. Be careful. He's not on your side. That's biological and emotional, all the rest of it. But I don't have to create a sense of self around that. I'll never forgive him. I hate him. May he drop dead. Oops. May he fall into hell, and so on and so forth. That's just ego, right? But Dhamma is, aversion feels this way. Fear feels this way. Resentment feels this way. And then you're in the doorway of the transcendent, because that's transcending the self-narratives around that. It's a very important question. Hope that helps. At least it's some good jokes.
It's very helpful, and that one answer three questions here, Luang Por.
Oh, great. Okay, there you go. 3 for 1. Any others, or should we cash in our chips?
Yeah, perhaps, we should allow you to rest and think about Elon Musk, and maybe he'll come and install some satellite in a monastery sometimes.
I don't know. He sounds a bit over the top. He doesn't sound like a quiet meditator. Yeah, I've had an exhausting day in the Tesla, so anyways, it's very nice being with you. I enjoy. Shall we finish with the Metta chant, Bita? Yeah?
Yes, please, Luang Por, and I'll put the slides up.
Great, thank you. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be at ease, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child. So with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Okay, everyone, take care. Stay healthy. See you next time. Namaste.
Let's all pay our respects to Luang Por by bowing 3 times together. Bow. Thank you, Luang Por.
Okay, my pleasure.